MicroStrategy is the #1 company that holds the most number of Bitcoins in the world. You would think Tesla is, but it's not. See, there it is. Boom, right there at the top. And they are doing something crazy recently. MicroStrategy ups Bitcoin bond sale to 500 million. So MicroStrategy says, yo, I want to get some more Bitcoin. And I'm going to raise up $400 million. And we're going to do that by way of bonds. And for companies, bonds is basically like getting a loan, but not from a bank, but from investors. So the way bonds work is that you borrow, let's say $100 and then a coupon value of 5% and then time to maturity at 5 years. Then what you're going to do is they're going to give you the $100 now. You're going to pay $5 for 5 years. And at the end of 5 years, you're going to give the $100 back. So it basically works like a loan, pretty much. Interest only loan, if you like. So what they're doing is they're issuing up these bonds at some crazy coupon rate at 6.125% in annual interest. There it is. So that's classified as a junk bond, but they issued, okay, I want to get $400 million worth of this. And then they got like $1.6 billion worth of orders. So they upped the sale to buy another $100 million. So, you know, what's another $100 million between friends? So here we go. MicroStrategy received 1.6 billion in orders for the offering in less than 24 hours, including interest from a large number of hedge funds. Here's the thing, guys. MicroStrategy is thinking, okay, we can raise money at 6% a year, but we're going to make more investing into Bitcoin. So that's what they're thinking. And then the more conservative guys out there who is more conservative investors, like kind of like your, I don't know, those really risk averse portfolios out there are sort of going, okay, well, I guess we could have a bit of exposure in that space, but hedge ourselves against that coupon rate. Because it's not like there's a difference between coupon payments on bonds and the dividends on shares, for example. This is how my lecturer, when I was learning corporate finance, explained to me. Share dividends, let's say, right, is kind of like you're going out, right? You're going out and you tell your mom and dad, hey, mom and dad, I'll be back at 11, right? And you don't come back at 11, okay? So that's like not paying the coupon rates, right? And that's a big deal, right? And kind of isn't a big deal. Like the parents are not going to trust you anymore as much afterwards. Whereas let's say you have a friend and you just flake down on him, that's kind of like not paying the dividends. So dividends are a little bit more relaxed, bonds a little bit more stressful, and you got to keep those payments. But you know what? It's junk level because it's yielding like 6.125%. But you know, people have a lot of interest in it, and to get exposure into that space, then the institutional who have a low risk profile, they invest into this bond. So that's the bond in space right now. It's so interesting because MicroStrategy is not even a Bitcoin investment company, or it's not. It's a cloud computing company, and somehow more than 76% of its treasury is locked up in Bitcoin. So it's going to be mirroring the Bitcoin price quite heavily. So we got MicroStrategy to pump $500 million more into Bitcoin after 50% crash. Had sold 500 million in high yield notes, sometimes known as junk bonds, in an annual rate of interest of 6.125% and maturity date of 2028. The deal was worth more than 400 billion the company had hoped to raise. MicroStrategy received roughly 1.6 billion in orders, according to Bloomberg, citing people familiar with the situation, and a big number of hedge funds expressed interest. So hedge funds and, you know, institutions, they're going to be the slightly more risk averse entities that are going to be investing into this type of bonds. The business analytics software firm adds that it will borrow from qualified institutional investors as well as from persons outside of the United States. Can't believe this is just like a computing company that's just, you know, that's just running investments on Bitcoin. Anyway, Taylor is one of the most bullish Bitcoin advocates in the market. MicroStrategy now owns around 92,000 Bitcoin, worth about 3.2 billion on Wednesday, and has previously issued debt to buy crypto assets. The company estimated in the latest bond offering it will give 488 million to buy more Bitcoin. There we go. But you know what? They should have really bought it in the dip. But if they're just talking about it now, maybe, I don't know. The MicroStrategy CEO has disclosed that the tech firm's Bitcoin investment improved the company's financial performance significantly. Yeah, because I think they bought it at around about average of $24,000 per Bitcoin. So that's still up. They haven't realized the gains yet though. We say Bitcoin is hot. Bitcoin fixes everything. That certainly was the case with our stock. It imbued life into the company. Morale was dramatically boosted. We just had the best first quarter we've had in a decade. Not to do with any computers, but just from trading Bitcoin, kind of like Tesla. But anyway, they're happy. But here's the interesting part, how the Fed's ETF buying strategy helps MicroStrategy. This is a bit funny. So just stay with me. What this means, I found this kind of entertaining, but maybe that's because I'm a bit of a crypto nerd. Maybe you are as well. Maybe that's why you're on my channel. As of March, the Fed was one of the biggest investors in the SPDR, Bloomberg Barclays High Yield Bond ETF, also known as this ticker JNK. It's standing for junk. It's junk bond. So what happens is the Fed has bought up junk bonds and ETF shares. So ETF is like a group of shares, right? And then there is junk bonds within that collection of shares. That's what happened. MicroStrategy's latest bonds are in this particular ETF. I'll tell you why this is funny. Many Bitcoin proponents see the US Federal Reserve as public enemy #1, right? Because they don't really like Bitcoin. They want to keep trading fiat, you know, and just stay being patriotic like that. But the Fed's recent strategy of buying up company bonds for its balance sheet may have benefited the country's larger corporate holder of BTC. MicroStrategy. Okay, why is this funny? Federal all of this stems from the early days of pandemic, when in an effort to stabilize the company, it would elect to use its money printing powers, because Feds print out money, to buy up bond exchange traded funds, right? Which are securities that track an asset or group of assets, like I explained, and can be traded like stocks, right? As recently as March, the central bank was the fourth biggest holder of the SPDR, Bloomberg Barclays Holding High Yield Bond ETF, the JNK, the junk bonds, right? The high yield bonds are synonymous with the junk bonds, which is what I just said. So called because they're deemed to be at the higher risk of defaulting. So you're not going to show up on time when you say you're going to be back by 11 to your mom and dad. Indeed, the risk of these bonds is even reflected in the ticker of Barclays Fund JNK Junk. The ETF includes bonds from Carnival Cruise Line, Caesar Entertainment, American Airlines, and as of today, MicroStrategy. The amount of MicroStrategy bond in the fund is not a lot. Mind you, just 0.01% of the more than 10 billion in the ETF. It's only a very, very small portion, but it has contributed greatly to the number of orders that MicroStrategy has actually offered. But it does mean that Fed, okay, has helped the MicroStrategy max out its crypto holdings and become a de facto Bitcoin ETF, which is interesting because the Feds are supposed to be against it, but they printed out so much money, so they're going to get into it. The Federal Reserve balance sheet has grown from 4.2 trillion in March 2020 to nearly $8 trillion today. Part of an expansionary monetary policy that has been criticized by Bitcoin advocates, also including some government for devaluing the dollar. Because they print out so much money, this is basically what's going to happen. But the thing is, I guess with this growth here, they now can afford the next stimulus paycheck. I don't know. But the number of Bitcoin, as you know, is capped at 21 million, making a deflationary asset that theoretically holds its value. And now the Fed's hoping that's true, even if only indirectly. So the reason why I am very lamely laughing at this is because Feds don't want Bitcoin and they get told off by Bitcoin advocates for printing out so much bloody money, and then they are now going, oh, we should invest in Bitcoin, and then hedging their bets on the cripplingly inflationary dollar, which I'll be making another video about today, by investing further into Bitcoin and helping Bitcoin advocates like MicroStrategy in indirect by very significant ways. Because let's be honest, MicroStrategy only wanted about $400-500 million, only wanted $405 million, but boom, they've been given $1.6 billion worth in order. So guys, there you have it, guys. This is just a sort of a overall outlook on Bitcoin, what's actually happening. So there's the Feds are getting involved, you know, MicroStrategy is getting more Bitcoin. It's quite bullish out there. Over the long term, it's looking pretty good. I've got a whole series of these videos coming out today, so make sure you stay tuned, stay subscribed, ring that notification bell so that you can see what I come up with. Okay, well, no, I don't come up with them. This is just what's happening around the world, and I just happen to be covering it. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is HK. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace out. Well, in a few hours. Peace out.